Good morning. Today's book talks are for my students who love poetry, love realistic fiction, for the students who maybe haven't read a book in a long time and don't want to be overwhelmed with a very long, lengthy, time-consuming read. All of these books are novel in verse, and they are written with either free-form poetry or form poetry, for example, written with haikus and sonnets, or a combination of both. Today I'm going to be beginning with All the Broken Pieces by Anne E. Berg. If you love reading about children who are survivors and who have been through wars, then this book is for you. This book is about Matt, a Vietnamese boy who was adopted by an American family. Matt's having a really hard time dealing with his past and his tragedies. He's seen terrible things in the war and was born in the war, and that's all he knows. Now that he's with a loving family, the typical all-American family who eat apple pie and play baseball, and he's on a baseball team, he's struggling to fit in. But with the continued love, dedication, and support from his family and his music teacher and playing baseball, he finds a way to make peace with his past and express himself. The next book, Forget Me Not, by Ellie Terry, is an amazing book about a girl who's very, very strong. She's an 8th grader who's also experienced a lot of tragedy. Her dad passed away in a terrible accident, and her mom's having a really hard time living without him. She keeps trying to find a boyfriend. The problem is, every time the boyfriend and her break up, she picks up Callie, the protagonist, and just drives to a new town in a new city. Callie has relocated 10 times. She's very desperate for a friend. She's desperate for friendship, so much so that she has a secret that she doesn't tell anybody. The secret is she has Tourette's, or neurological disorder. There's one friend who has a hard time accepting that she's different and struggles to be friends with her in front of everyone. I'm just going to read you one of the poems about what it's like to have a tic. It's titled Uninvited Guest. I take a bite of chicken, chew, thrusts my jaw forward. Again. This time it pops. Sounds like tiny bits of bone are breaking from my jaw. Sneaky new tic. I never know when one will decide to knock on the door to my brain like an uninvited guest. This book will really teach you what it's like to have Tourette's. You'll have a new perspective on people who have Tourette's, and you'll enjoy reading about her life and the little bit of romance in this friendship. Read it and you'll find out what happens. The next book is Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. The main character, Lonnie, had the perfect life. His mom was a secretary. His father works for Con Edison. He has a sister named Lily. They're 3 years apart, and they were very, very close. Everything was wonderful. His parents went on dates together. They watched movies together. He had the perfect family life until one day, a fire took the life of his parents. Lonnie's whole world was turned upside down. He separated from his sister. His sister was adopted by a woman who did not want any boys. Luckily, Lonnie was also taken in by a lovely lady, Miss Edna. She was very supportive, and she was always there for him. She understood the sadness that he felt and was very patient with him. He was really mourning the loss of his parents, his life, the separation of his sister, and he was desperate in trying to remember and record this, which is where this book in verse is very important. He fell into poetry, writing poetry, and it was an outlet for him, and it was recognized by his teacher. There's one poem I'm going to read to you about the tragedy that transpired that took his parents' life. In my head, I see a fire. I see black windows. I hear people hollering. I smell smoke. I hear a man's voice saying, "I'm so sorry." I hear myself screaming. This is what he silently was trying to cope with. Read and find out if Lonnie finds peace and hope through his poetry and with the support of his new family. The next book is Booked by Kwame Alexander. If you love soccer and you struggle with doing what your parents say and getting bullied, then this is the book for you. Nick lives, breathes, and eats soccer. Everything he does revolves around soccer. His life is going normal until one day when everything falls apart. His parents decide that they're going to split up. His mom leaves him with his dad, who forces him to read the dictionary that he's writing. Nick hates words. Ironically, at the bottom of the pages, there are little footnotes that give the definition of these very interesting words. Getting back to the plot, if things aren't bad enough, Nick gets an attack of appendicitis and is laid up in bed. He cannot compete in his soccer games. This devastates him. The one good thing that comes through this is his new appreciation for novels in verse. Yes, novels in verse. He has a little crush, and in order to kind of get close to her, he starts reading this book she recommended. And through this book, he learns how to cope with bullying, because one of the characters is experiencing that himself, just like Nick. And he finds more connections and the strength to deal with his bullies and realize there's more to life than just soccer. The next book, ironically, is the book that hooked Nick. It's called Rhyme Schemer by K.A. Holt. In this book, the main character is a rotten bully. He has many reasons for being a bully. He's actually being bullied by one of his older brothers. He has two parents that are both doctors and very, very busy at work, and three older brothers. He's always getting in trouble at school and just has a sour attitude. But he does have one love: writing poetry. But he uses his poetry to make fun of people. Until one day when someone got a hold of his poetry book and started blackmailing him. He had to silently deal with this until somebody noticed, a librarian, that something was a little fishy here, and she took an interest in him and really helped him deal with some of his secrets and find a connection again to his family. I'm just going to read one of his poems where he makes fun of his teachers. A secret message. Left from a secret scratcher. The teachers are not happy, and that makes it even more fun. One more. A face with whiskers. A grave face. A rat. A rat likes to talk. Shove off, I say, stupid rat. Hartwic. He makes these poems. They're called found poems. And read to find out how these found poems get him in trouble and save him. I hope you enjoyed my book talks. Each one of these books deals with a different issue, but they all deal with problems that teens have, from bullying to crushes to self-acceptance and discovering who they are. Thank you.